by and large, the desktop is very similar to Windows 7. It's
Oh, okay. Yeah, don't probably.
a few annoyances in terms of how you deal with the two together. I think that's it for now.
Well,
I'll
they
start
really
with
got rid of the automatic reboot. The updates.
Yeah.
If they've done that, it's worth the upgrade.
Yeah.
I don't know why they can't get rid of that as a service pack. The up preview. I've had 2 machines reboot. They're all doing something this week.
Maybe the advanced part.
It's possible. It's possible. It's just maybe not. It does slow down.
That's the automatic update, right?
But I know it's a lot of work.
All the problem is doing the update, but when it comes up and tells you it needs to reboot, it should not reboot when you tell them.
I guess we'll get started. So as we know, Ken is going to be talking about
Typing something, all of a sudden your application goes away.
HTML5 again tonight. And we had the first session a couple months ago. It was great. Thanks everyone for that good feedback. And pass it on to Ken. We have a lot of good sessions coming up. We're booked up now through November, so we have a good session each time, including the one next month. Sounds really good. I heard of the document databases before, but I had never really done anything with it. But you'll see it'll show up on our website tomorrow, the description for what steel price is going to show us next time. It's a MongoDB, which is a document different. It's not a relational database. It's another kind of database, kind of a free-form database. But he's going to tie that into website programming and everything, so that'll be good. And then again, for the rest of the year, pretty much, we have a couple people who might speak. If no one else does, picks up November, I'll give a talk on Metro application. I'm playing with that a little bit. Pretty interesting stuff. So I think that'll go, but someone else might want to talk. In any case, we're good with speakers, mostly sponsors too. Thank you to Stephen and Baron Consulting for sponsoring tonight's meeting. That's much appreciated. I was contacted by someone in the area. I sent that out in the email for robotics programming. I think everyone's probably heard this before. If you've been in Tucson any amount of time, I'm not sure how widespread it is, but you get a tax credit. So if you give if you can donate some kind of tax credit to your local school or anyone you want to. So it's a one-to-one dollar exchange. I think you just have to pay for it in advance. So you pay up to $400 per married couple or $200 for singles, and then when it comes tax time, that applies to your tax bill. And if you're getting a refund, it'll just come back as extra money in your refund, so it's 20. So it's a good program to leverage. So if you have any interest in sponsoring that, she was nice enough to say that if people didn't want to sponsor her directly, maybe somebody who could leverage her ideas to help out schools in your area, wherever that might be. So good. Like to see that, encourage young kids to get into programming and robotics, engineering. It's good for all of us, I think, to plant those seeds early. Anyway, there's some forms back there. I told her I'd leave some back there, so if you're interested in that at all, there's some forms back there. Other than that, I think we're good. Steve and oh yeah, Steve.
The section we went to with the Scott Guthrie presentation, the big plus out of Signal R is being technology that's going to catch on like wildfire. And in fact, Microsoft, it's open source. Microsoft's bringing it right into Visual Studio, supporting it.
That's cool stuff. That's what Larry was saying too. So what Steve just said was, these guys went up, and I think you went up too. Right?
Yeah.
So it was a good session in general, but the focus is on Azure,
Visual Studio. And then
Signal R.
ASP.NET stuff. Signal R, web services, web API. Did I say web services properly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Do you guys remember Abel showed that to us like 3 or 4 months ago. That was one of the technologies he showed us. And if I remember right, it's a way to do asynchronous communication between web sites, right?
The web API or the web services?
Both. Signal-R in general.
Signal on, yeah.
Right. That's interesting that they're promoting that like that. And we'll see more. Anything stood out? Did anything stand out for you?
I thought it was a great day. All day it was really a lot of fun. And it was at the Scottsdale Center for the Arts. So it's a big auditorium. It's sort of jealous being here in Tucson because they had the place full. It's like 800 people. 800 programmers in one arena.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. And Scott K is certainly to be handed compliments for putting that together. He's getting more into events planning, but it's the 9th year that he's done this.
He's got a new company that focuses
Here's a
on
new
event
company, right, that he
focus.
presented to a few of the different On Time presented, IO, a server farm type company presented, Scott presented, but then otherwise it was Scott Guthrie who talked about almost all morning on the new Azure. Of course, he's now switched from ASP.NET to the lead for the Azure program group. And then Scott Hanselman. Lots of fun. I've never seen him speak before in person. The guy is so dynamic and exciting and fun. And it's almost like doesn't matter what he's talking about. Sometimes he sort of veers here and there, but he's just entertaining. And then after that it was Gasser.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Here's first
Brady
Gasser. Yeah, and he talked about Signal-R. As Steve mentioned, this was really a new technology that is relatively new, written by these two guys, open source in their spare time, but it's turned out to get a really good following. Microsoft likes it. It allows users to write two-way communication between a web browser and a server.
Yeah.
True two-way communications where the server can call a function on a specific person's client or broadcast to all clients, or broadcast to single select ones or in groups. There's this two-way communication back and forth. It's really cool.
You can do that in WCF, but it's kind of clunky. So
And you can do that. There's actually there's so many things in HTML5, and I covered a lot. I will cover a lot of them. One of them is WebSockets. HTML5 has a way to do this too, with WebSockets, and I'm not sure if it's using. I don't think it's using Signal-R, but there's one more thing for you to explore. You find that most technologies have been done before by somebody in the past. Again, it's when something really, grabs a hold of the development community and goes like wildfire. Maybe this will, or this will.
Do you remember, part of what I was trying to remember, that they were able to bring down thousands and thousands of records involved in seconds.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that was all about?
It
Using
seemed like-
Signal-R technology.
It seemed like there was a parallel command from that you can go off and get a bunch of information to server.
Yeah, it's a parallel. I took a note on that, but yeah, I haven't really looked into it yet. It was kind of quick, but yeah, it had to do with parallel communication.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. And the other deal, I guess, what we learned from Visual Studio Live was, looks like WCF is going to get displaced by the web API from, as a matter of fact, Microsoft. I don't know, did they say Microsoft, one guy was saying that eventually they were not going to support it?
WCF?
Yeah, WCF by replacing.
Well, that's huge.
That is huge.
That would be hard for them to do, I'd say. And it would piss a lot of people off,
Oh, yeah.
for sure. So.
But
But they're not promoted it because every time it comes up, they say
the web API.
Huh. I'd like to hear more about that. I wonder what Rick Garrity up there, who's the Connected Systems group leader is. I wonder what his thoughts on it. I wonder, are those things recorded? Can we watch them online?
Well, that's what we find out, because they actually recorded it, but we just need to try to figure out how to do it.
Okay. Good. Well, if we figure that out, and I'll put it in the next mail that we send out if we can get that. So it sounds like it could be useful.
Yeah, especially the hassle of it. That's
Yeah, he's got a
Yeah,
lot of good
it's
stuff.
fun to listen to.
He talked about
That's
the
what
new Visual Studio and gave a lot of details, tips about how to use it.
They gave him a lot of crap about the color.
Yeah.
Did they finally have that now?
You have themes. You can pick different colors.
Well, so far there are two. There's a monotone sort of gray theme, and then a dark white and black theme, which was in a couple of releases ago of the studio. They're adding, because I have a release, it was a release candidate from a week ago. You said you got an email. I don't know if you've seen it because the one that they were using on stage yesterday looks slightly difficult, but they are adding little bits of color into the icons and into the interface a little bit here and there. Although he said something which he said there probably will also be a theme designer or theme changer in the final release. Or maybe he was alluding to, which I would also agree, somebody's going to write one and you'll have it as a plugin on VidCam, I'm sure. So, I might write one, right? It'd be fun to do. I'll wait till somebody else does it.
Okay. Cool. Good.
So, yeah, we'll start. Please start.
Okay, we'll start. Before we do start, does anyone have anything else you want to bring up?
Well, I was thinking, since, on our website that, again, if they're, redoing some things, that you might have a little hot link you can click, have a little JavaScript so you can order the pizza, online. I call it the Java the Hut technology.
There you go.
What do you think? Keep it on a sort of low key in case you want to get copyrights on something like that.
Yeah, bring that up to pizza. All right. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ken. Okay.
All right. Well, I just counted 16 of us, so that's pretty decent.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the advanced part didn't turn anyone off. I think maybe just that's hot in summertime. Maybe. Who was here 2 months ago for the first time? Okay. 50%, maybe 60%. So I can go over a few slides quickly from that talk, and I don't want to concentrate a lot on it because there's just a ton of material, and I have a lot of things to show. We'll just look at what we have time for. So this is just curious. It's the very first web server put online by Tim Berners-Lee at CERN in Switzerland in 1990. If any of you were using Mosaic at the time, you could have visited the site. This is a talk about HTML5. Everyone's aware of it. It's actually really a hot topic, developers and even news people, certainly all of the many websites and all the browsers are embracing HTML5. It's really exciting. It's a standard that's in development. It's nowhere near the recommendation stage yet in the W3C. However, it's probably the technology that's gaining and being utilized, and you can use it now, even though it's not a standard. It's still in some flux, but it's really well enough fleshed out that it's secure. I mean, to say the least, all the major browsers are HTML5 compliant, and they are not, all 100% in sync, but they are getting there, and that's pretty exciting. Huge changes, and lots of cool technologies that you can benefit from. So the process is a working draft, which is really where this is. You may have read recently or years past on the internet that this may not be a standard until 2024. It's not. It's 2012. It's here now. Just don't worry about that. Use it. It's really supported. This is all about free technologies with other APIs tacked onto it. So, it's HTML5. It's truly, you've got new tags. It's a new standard. It's all. You can still use 4. Anything in 4, you can use bits and pieces of 5. If you start off with a doc type, that's just very simple. It's just doc type HTML5. But it's also, of course, JavaScript, and also you have to involve CSS3. which is also a standard that's wrapped in and or is coexisting with HTML5. There are new things in CSS as well. And you know, of course, our challenge as developers is we've got to deal with multiple browsers as well as now multiple platforms. And some of this is going to make that easier. Some of it is not necessarily going to be easier. So don't look at this as I can make a website that's cross-browser and platform client and my job will be easier. Our job doesn't get easier. It just doesn't. And you know, after going to a talk yesterday with these 800 programmers in a room and these guys from Microsoft showing us this new technology, our jobs are constantly changing, and so you know, that's why I like to learn. Layout is interesting. So some brand new, these are actually tags. These are new tags, and it's interesting because it's at a simple basic level, but we're able to now designate sections of the page instead of just with divs or cells and tables. And I'm not going to talk about the contrast between those two, but we also can have articles and sections and headers within articles and headers within pages and these things called asides and navs, and then there's captions to images and all kinds of new tags. So at the base level, throw doc type HTML5 on the top of your page and start using some of the new HTML5 tags. You'll get yourself immersed into it pretty quickly that way. Form tags, there's tons of them. It's not just type equals text, password, or button. Now there's all these. Pretty good support. Video, Steve and Larry, who also went yesterday, they are working on a site with a lot of media, and they're finding out the trials and tribulations of HTML5 video. Video and audio, the idea is to embed them right into the browser. However, it's a complicated game, and there's new formats, there's new ways, besides now Flash and QuickTime, or media player. Now there's literally dozens of players that you can research online and utilize to play a video or to play an audio.
Oh, that reminds me, excuse for interrupting, but supposedly the new IE10 for under, I guess you have to download, you have to do, Metro preview. Adobe and evidently Microsoft are working to invent a Flash without the plugin into IE10. Have you heard that?
I believe it's for specific whitelisted websites so far. But yeah.
What is that?
Well, they said for specific sites that, like, Vimeo, I think, was listed, YouTube, and some of those. So what that they will be embracing, because we know when the iPad came out, they said no Flash. They're still saying no Flash, no Silverlight either. But Microsoft is saying, no, we're going to make a browser. It's going to be full, capable Windows. There's two versions: the Windows base operating system and the Windows RT for ARM-based processors. But they're saying we're going to have, on those tablets will allow you to run Flash. There's in fact where Adobe has shared some of the source code Flash with Microsoft. So, and then it's for specific sites at this time. It was exciting news to me, but that was the one caveat that stuck out in the article. I'm going to go through some of this, just get to where we need to be here. Canvas is really cool. I can show you that. JavaScript, again, things like jQuery. Who's using jQuery? 20% of you, that's good. I use some of it. Okay, so advanced features. I can show you quickly, and we can look at some code of each of these features, but let me just run it by real quick, and then I want to go into it. So offline web apps. We know about caching applications. All browsers are going to cache, and that's been done since day one in the mid-90s, basically for performance reasons, so that you can the browser will first look into your cache folder and say, is that resource here based on its URL, and I can just grab it and show you that quicker, on the page, and everything downloaded from a website. And if it doesn't have it available, or based on your settings, it'll go get it from the server. That's been great for users, not great for developers, because we always have to be aware of that. But this is different. This is where you can have an entire website be cached. And so that if a person's offline, and that's the key word there, that they can see your website. And so you can give a listing, a manifest list of the files from your site that you want to be cached. And they will be available then offline, and others you can say this is nonsense because it needs dynamic data to be generated at a server in real time. So you can state those as not being cached. That the person can see. That's all about being a mobile society, so it's hard to deal with that. But what's important is cache is now, along with web storage, a whole lot more space is provided for this. So up to 5 megabytes is available on the user's computer for caching. Web storage, we'll look at it a little bit further, but that's where you, as a developer, can, in your application, store data in numerous forms, stored right on the user's computer. Now this is different than cookies. Cookies allowed you 4 kilobytes, 4K of information in a cookie storage. This is 5 megabytes. Okay, that's kind of the accepted right now. And Chrome actually allows you to adjust that between 5 and 10. But to be safe, you can say 5. I'll show you just a real quick demo of that. Web workers are really fun because it allows us to do multi-threading in a browser now. It's really sweet. Geolocation, you've probably played around with that. This is an API, but these APIs now are being rolled right into HTML5. The drag and drop is an API. We've all done JavaScript drag and drop, right? Who hasn't done that? I mean, you could look up the first script on the internet, get it, and implement it, and then in half an hour wrap your head around it. So that's always been there. But this is now a rich form of drag and drop that's implemented, and it's inside the JavaScript library. And so it gives you consistency, but also allows you to drag and drop files, blobs of data, as well as text and so forth. SVG has been around for a number of years, but again, it's being integrated in this concept of HTML5. File system access is pretty interesting. It's a sandboxed file system. So clearly, they're not going to let us write JavaScript to access from a browser scenario the user's client machine's file system, right? We've always been sandboxed with, with this for obviously security reasons within the browser environment, and so thus with file system as well. But what we can do is manipulate files now within that sandbox. Cross-origin resource sharing, or CORS. We've all heard about cross-site scripting, and that's something that we're concerned about as a security vector. What they're allowing us to do, though, is to get past the concept that within a web page, you can only safely access the content from the same origin. Access. But what this allows us to do is in JavaScript have JavaScript call URLs that are not from the same domain. I'll look at that. Microdata is a curious thing. I'm not going to talk a lot about it. I thought it was a little bit different than it was when I first looked at it. WebSockets I haven't looked at at all. Index database I haven't either. WebSockets are going to be something like Signal R, I would imagine, which is probably an alternate way to do that. I would think WebSockets, if a person made approach that if they're more of a web designer, JavaScript kind of a person in that realm of senior development, and if they're more of a ASP.NET, C# or VB kind of developer, you would look into doing the same technology with SQL. My guess on it. And then index databases, there's two databases, a SQL database and this index concept API. Again, and it's able to use the 5 megabytes of web storage where you can have a database actually on the client side. So we're really seeing now blurring between what goes on the server and on the client. I'm going to get into security, some concepts of security, but let's not look at that right now. Okay, so as you've noticed, this is the latest version of both Windows 8, it's a release candidate for that, and a release candidate for Visual Studio 2012, or 11 as it's called, version-wise. And I'm hoping we work through this. The screen itself, I don't have a driver for this machine in Windows 8, so it's at the basic levels. I can't change the resolution. Here's my site. One thing we talked about pretty extensively at the last first part of this session was these ideas of bootstraps and shims and modernizers. These are tools that have been developed that are freely available on the internet that you can plug into your website that's destined for HTML5 so that you can attempt to make all the browsers behave similarly. People have found that you can actually sort of shoehorn, IE8, let's say, which is and really not very HTML5 ready. IE9 is partially so. IE10 is in beta. Now you can download it for your machine even without Windows 8. But it's going to be. And Microsoft is really embracing HTML5. You'll notice in here we can. I can actually. It's not showing, but this website is designed in Visual Studio to target HTML5 browsers. So what this site is using is, so we talked about last time two ways, and I explored myself, 2 ways to create a shell of a website. One was using Visual Studio 2012, and in there they'll give you the doc type, they'll give you modernizer, they'll give you jQuery right out of the box. These are the templates that are being built in here. And actually, we learned yesterday those things are all updated through NuGet through the Visual Studio. What I chose was to go with one of these things called Bootstrap from Twitter. And it's essentially some JavaScript, a lot of CSS, and a template to start out with. You could start from scratch and put in all these pieces yourself. It doesn't really matter. So don't get caught up on what I've done here. I'm going to just run this site. Then I'll use Chrome a lot, but I'm also testing on Firefox, on Safari, on IE, and I have Opera as well. I have to tell you a funny story. Yesterday, Scott Cate, we all know, are familiar with him. He's been to events in Phoenix. He's pretty involved in the community of the developers. And so Scott Guthrie was on stage in the morning. He said, okay, I'm going to start the Azure website. What do you guys want to call it? And somebody blurted out, Scott's website. Okay, so how creative is that? So here it's Scott's website. Somebody else blurted out in the audience, which Scott is that? Is that Scott Cate? And Scott Guthrie goes, giggles, right? And he says, so this is curious. We've got all these Scotts. It says, my name's Scott. This is organized by Scott Cate. The next speaker is Scott Hanselman. And then Brady Gaster, his first name is S, is that his name is Scott as well. And guess what? We're all meeting in Scottsdale. That's pretty fun. So it's definitely a Scottsdale.
And then when they recorded it too, I think they used Scott State in the recording.
Scotch. Twitter Bootstrap is what I'm using here. H5 boilerplate is another one. That will get you jump started into an HTML5 website. Normalized CSS is an interesting product because what it does is it queries through jQuery. It questions or interrogates your browser when the page loads and asks, what are all the capabilities that this platform that I'm running on now, client, is capable of? And then it'll list those up on the very top right in the body tag, like simply a replacement. So as a programmer in JavaScript, you can just say, if Modernizer, geolocation is available, then you say, great, I know that's there, and you start programming.
How did you get to this point again, Ken? Where does this come from?
This right here?
How did you generate this much so far of what we're looking at?
This is all, of course, canned in here, but this is the Twitter Bootstrap project. And I just downloaded that and then integrated those files into a Visual Studio project.
Okay.
Yeah, so the CSS that's in here, the Bootstrap portion of it, I'm actually not using the boilerplate, but the normalize is being used. This is from Twitter as it downloads all of the source. And in the JavaScript area, here's the Bootstrap JavaScript. And they're giving us some controls, right, created by Twitter developers. And they're giving us jQuery and things like that, which are already in here. I'm using a fraction of it, of course. So that's essentially what you're getting. And then the CSS is giving me this layout of the menu and a way to structure a website. And again, I've left it in there so that we can see what it looks like. I haven't made it more beautiful at all except for what they gave me. So it's all fair game. And I could have used the boilerplate from this website instead. And these other ones in here. An IE shiv is just that idea of shoehorning less than IE 10, anything, 79 to. So in other words, people have figured out, like, there's a feature in CSS for rounded corners on boxes. And obviously, if you say you use that CSS which is in CSS3, but a CSS2 capable browser is going to go, I don't understand that. Those are going to be square. Sorry. But then this shiv will be able to go in there and create those for you. So small stuff like that. But lots of an attempt to bring all the browsers up to the modern level. So let's look at web storage. Now you can store up to 5 megabytes. I'm going to store just a couple of tiny pieces. But this is something we're all familiar with, this concept of remember me on this computer, right? You want to be able to expedite when a person comes to your website and has to log in each time so that their name, and in this case I'm going to store name and address, and then a Boolean for whether to store or not on the person's computer, not by a cookie, right? 4K, this is 5 megabytes of available space. I was thinking of a cool idea, which would be, because I have a little demonstration for Canvas here, I was thinking quite literally of a cool project would be let a person draw on the canvas, and each stroke or each rectangular circle that they drew on there, if they want to draw a face with hair, every little strand of hair would be something that I would capture and then create an image of it and store it in memory on their machine. And so that then they could close their browser out, come back to that, and redraw their
5 megs shared between all HTML5 applications for a given user?
It's per browser, and
I mean, so with the situation you just described, can you then visit another website and it would take over your 5 megabyte, so you wouldn't, you can't rely on it?
So that's a good question. Of course, each browser is going to have its own storage area, right? That's not going to be polluted. And then it's not based on session, of course, but I think it may be where each URL domain would be also getting 5. So, and then if you exceeded the 5, of course, it's going to start overwriting that. But I don't think if you went to another domain name, I think it gives it another 5. But I'm not sure. And of course, if you're not using it, nothing's being used. You know, it's up to us as programmers to do that. But that would be something to explore. Yeah, when do you get collision of that space?
And how do you clear it out, for example, if all the sites are getting 5 meg and you want to clear it out somehow? Is it a browser setting like your, cache settings?
Yeah, that can be turned off, and you can limit things like that. So I would think, like obviously in IE it's pretty easy that you go in there and you do settings and you say how much. I think usually when you install IE, it gives you 250 megabytes by default. So that's a fair number of sites you can mess around on your computer and store stuff, right?
Yeah.
I always lower that because I think it's absurdly high, but why not just leave it there? The space is pretty cheap these days. But yeah, I haven't explored, so those are good questions.
So the 7 megabytes don't stay on your computer after, like in your example, you draw the image, and then if you close your browser and came back, your application will find that same 5 megabytes of drawing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm almost certain it's based on the domain that it's coming from. So if I just put in here, put in a name and let's put a password. Doesn't matter what the password is. This is kind of a dummy form. It's not posted. So I'll just write anything. If I want to go and submit this, it's going to give me, here's a feature which is right built into the the form field for email address. So there's 2 things going on here. This is not your traditional text box, right? 2 things are happening. It's an email text box, so it's going to validate for a proper email type. We'll show that, right? You saw, first of all, it had validation saying with that pop-up. That pop-up was in Chrome's version of that. You must please fill out this field, right? So if I put in something like, say, can, and then misspell, don't do something right, it will say, please enter an email address, because it knows that it's not having one of these. So now it goes green, and it should be fine. So if I submit this, it's going to go away. And if I go away from the page and I come back, obviously it's clear, right? Because nothing was stored at all. But instead, if I come in here and I say, and then check this box, at this point, I'm going to get it saving. And then to demonstrate where this goes, let's look in here. So showing in the local storage, right, for local host. And so it is showing that it's based on local host, which would be the domain name that I'm using this on. So I think if you had many of these, it would just string them all down.
So where is it physically or logically? Is it under your user account?
It's probably on Windows somewhere, users, blah, 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 blah. You know, users, local, user app data, local roaming, or one of those, you know, under Google, Chrome, blah, blah, blah.
So if I signed on to your computer and did the same thing you did, it would say to plug in my user area somewhere?
Exactly. Yeah, so there's not going to be user collision either. So it's, you know, it's all well thought out. So it's interesting because I could come in here, supposed to be able to change that. If I wanted to say, you know, this is supposed to be and that's something else that can be saved. What we can do then, let's go ahead and close this down. And then run this again. So I've closed my session down totally, and I'm going to go back to this area, and there you have the same information, even with the edited name changed. And of course, in terms of security, now you don't want to be putting any sensitive information, so the code is not saving. Clearly, it's not saving versus passing. So if we look at that, I've changed whenever this thing decides it's going to respond. Real quickly, I've talked about this before. I'm not a fan of using master pages in ASP. I actually realized something interesting yesterday listening to Hanselman, that I use web forms. Who's using web forms opposed to MVC? Who's using MVC? You guys are. You are. Evidently, there was a lot of discussion. It was pretty curious that people were bashing and have been bashing web forms. And I've struggled with web forms myself, and I bash them in my own head. You know, there's this clunky, they're over-bloated. You know, this idea of view state, throwing this god-awful. You can have a web page that's this long, and it'll have that much view state, you know, thrown in there. And grid views, I mean, give me a break. Grid views are fine if you've got, you know, a little toy of a data, you know, amount of a data table to send. If you're, you know, doing a real application for a customer or client in a company that has some serious, you know, SQL database data that you're going to put on a form, you can't use them up there. You can't use controls. And I think, and then all you know, that plug-in SQL data module and, you know, update panels and all those things. I don't use any of them. The update panel is for you know, someone who just doesn't understand Ajax, and you don't want to program the raw JavaScript to do Ajax. You know, I tried using that stuff. Well, what Hanselman was saying, and I'm kind of going in different directions here, but he was saying we still embrace web forms. He says, and MVC, and web API, and web pages, and we want you to be able to use mix and match. His point was to mix and match and put them all in your website together. Use what you can, what you like, and what is appropriate for your, you know, task, and have them all coexist. That was his point. I realized that I don't necessarily want to say I use web forms anymore. I think what I do is I use ASP. I use ASP. That's how I make websites. ASP. If I were doing PHP, that'd be totally different. But I use ASP, and then mix and match the technologies that work from Microsoft. I'm going to look more into MVC. Maybe there's something there that I can mix into what I use. So that was an interesting eye-opener for me. The code is then
It's interesting, your website
the idea of writing any code in the page. You can tell with these pages. The whole idea is, because I used to early, learn ASP with classic ASP, where you mix VB script completely inside of your markup. And they still want you to do a lot of that. It's just sloppy. So what do we have
Can
here?
you increase the size of your fonts there, Ken?
Yeah. Get up.
I use a control Q trick and go font.
Yeah. That would be better.
All right.
Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I'm a fan of being able to see what you're looking at. jQuery, right? This is a Resnick, as we learned yesterday. But just kick me if I go astray with some things. So this is jQuery. There's a function called $. Literally, there's a function called $. And then you put in inside the parentheses something in quotes, and it's essentially a shorthand for document.getID by then you put in the ID of the element on the page or the DOM object that you're trying to get a reference to. So that's all that's doing. And then ready is short name, it's another prop. In this case, it's another function, but it's essentially when the document is ready, so it'll be on load, in other words. And then this concept of who programs like this. This is an anonymous function inside of this call. Programs that way in JavaScript. Do you use anonymous functions a lot? See no hands. We know what anonymous functions are, right? When I program, I guess old school, what I learned is I don't use anonymous functions in JavaScript. In Java, they came out with them. They've now come out with them in version 2, maybe of maybe higher framework. But this is the concept. But it goes further than that. There's this really interesting idea that in JavaScript, a function is a full category of an object. So a function is an object. When we look at in C#, which I think everybody's using C#, correct? We're all expert C#. We're all a very good C#. Okay. When we think of an object, we're looking at a member or an object holds members, and members can be properties or events or methods, right? In this language, the function, which is just another name for a method, is an object. And so then you can pass then as an anonymous function as an argument to this method or function called ready. Yeah, I just thought I'd point that out. Because when you look at code on the internet, there's tons of it. So here's your if modernizer local storage, right? That's querying that library, that jQuery library. And then so it says local storage get item. We've got name. So this is on startup, right? It'll say get email. You can remember. That's the Boolean. It's the concept going on here, right? And then for saving the data, it's going to do the same thing. If modernizer local storage, get this element by ID, its attribute, add it checked, and then assign these values to these items on the page, those text boxes essentially. And then we'll also set those. And then if we wanted, if we uncheck that's essentially it in a nutshell. That's all it takes. Those two methods. And
Your if modernizer command there is really testing to see if your browser can support local sort, right?
correct. You can do it in other ways. You can say, you can ask the window object, which is essentially, reference to the browser. Ask the window object if it can understand a method that's used by it. Try and catch, stuff like that. So it's again, simplifying a little bit of that work. So there you have that in a nutshell. Let's look at web workers. This is pretty neat. I need the internet for this. Let's see, how do I connect to the internet here? Connect to
Is there a particular connection, Aaron? Does he need to pick a particular connection for Gangplank?
Okay, so while that's connecting, web workers is actually really way cool. So everything in browsers have been synchronous, right? You get one thing which blocks until that's finished, and then the next function can carry on. So I need to do it.
No.
Okay. Next. So everything would block, right, until that process is finished, and then the next thing would run. And if you had anything that was taking a long time, your browser would either become non-responsive or be sluggish. So this example here is pretty cool. This is something I got on the internet. Most of these examples are things that I've glommed off the internet and learned them and then adjusted it so that I could say something about it. But this was kind of fun. So this is a side again, but I had the longitude and latitude, and I think it was pointing somewhere like in South Africa. And I thought, well, South Africa is not all that interesting. What's going on in South Africa? Let me just sort of plug in some new numbers. So I put, positive longitude and negative longitude, positive longitude, different latitude, and so forth. And it ended up here. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Why is this map location interesting? It's in current news these days. First of all, what country is this? Where?
Is it Syria?
Close.
Did I see
It's close. It's Iraq. No, I'm sorry.
Libya?
The 10 years of war. It's Iraq. It's Iraq. Why is Qom interesting, though, as a city in Iran? Yeah. Why is that interesting? That's true. That's true.
They're having their qualms about that?
We're having more qualms about that.
So the qualm before the storm?
Well, so Stuxnet is Stuxnet something everyone's familiar with, right? Yeah. So this is just south of Tehran. I thought when this came up, just by me, this Tehran, plugging in longitude, latitude, and I thought, oh, how cool! I'll just leave that there. So we're having something to discuss. I'm going to get to that a little bit later. See, I should have a third part of this talk. So the centrifuges were targeted, the hardware in there, specific IC, brains of a circuit board, right, in the centrifuges was targeted by a worm that was created probably by us here in the United States. I'll give my opinion on that. In 2010, and what we sent were these worms out to go and specifically target a definite piece of hardware through the internet to cause them to spin out of control and then damage themselves. But when when users ask the centrifuges, "Are you still online and are you okay?" it would report that they were fine, and they destroyed numerous centrifuges, and basically to slow up Iran's process to create nuclear-grade uranium, bomb uranium. Well, so what else? Why else is this interesting? So we've all heard in the news now the flame virus, the flame virus. Why is that interesting? People think that they're created by the same people. I think they're created by the U.S. government and by the Department of Defense. But that's my theory. I haven't seen that in writing yet. And, well, I have actually recently, but both. So this is also interesting. Who is analyzing these viruses, worms, right, malware products? Who's doing it? So it's not our government. They don't have the people in Iran to do it necessarily. Although I'm sure they're looking into it. But it's Russia. Kaspersky is the labs in Russia that have been analyzing our software built by our Department of Defense and maybe in collaboration with the Israeli government. So you'll notice that a couple of years ago we created a cyber security department, both for defense and offense. You're not going to create a Department of Defense that's not interested in offense, right? They wanted to protect our infrastructure and our computer infrastructure from attack from the outside, but also be able to be proactive and make what it's like to be these things. 20 megabytes. Have you ever heard of a worm being 20 megabytes? That's how big flame is. It can do a lot of different things.
With all the modules loaded in what I agree.
Yeah.
The core is a lot smaller.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and one of those modules Kaspersky found was similar to an earlier version of Stuxnet, which means Flame predates Stuxnet. And so first we did surveillance and spying through the internet on Iranian computers, figured out what we needed to know to then attack them directly with Stuxnet. And so, I thought that was pretty interesting to look at that. Well, what's interesting on here, though, that clear your mind of all that garbage, and let's look at what's going on here. So this map, right, we have is very responsive. It's the only thing that's going on here, and this is using geolocation to assign this map to the code. We can zoom, and it's very responsive. However, if we do start along a very intensive process, we're going to start a math calculation to calculate Fibonacci numbers. And they're going to start running that. So that's an ongoing process that would be, if not blocking, basically interrupting these resources. So now if we try to move this, we get, very jumpy behavior. We stop that. We get very slow behavior. Start it. And this is now this is traditional, right? Not using any web workers. So let's stop this guy and now do the same Fibonacci calculations. However, we'll send that off in a thread. We're going to spin off a thread, just like we would with programming in the framework of C#, but this is in JavaScript, and it's a thread in the browser, and this still maintains the responsiveness that we had when it was not working. You can see the numbers we have. So this was really pretty exciting to see that. Now those are web workers, and go look for the Ks. So let's look at the code for how that works. A very simple observation you'll notice is that I'm showing you HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, C#. There's no back-end stuff to this. Look at HTML5. is going to interface with your production application, and of course, all the same stuff is that important, work that you do on the server is still all the same. But when you send it down to the client, this is what we're talking about. So, calculations. We're going on. So initializing. This is just initializing the lat/lon for this. We're getting. I'll show you Google Maps again, but I'll just go over this real quickly. This is a very simple way of doing it. The map type is going to be map ID of road map. That's what it started out. So I've changed it to satellite view. It's going to get ID by the jQuery. That'll be a $, right? With the options, and the options here for the Google Maps are a few things in there. And this is getting a div flipped over on the page. So calculating Fibonacci's. So we're looking at setting up the timer, just doing the calculation. So this is what's doing the Fibonacci itself, throwing in the into these divs here for that label. So here's our start and stop the worker. Here's the line where we're going to create a new web worker using worker.js. We're going to add a listener to the worker, which is going to, here's another anonymous function, right? Then it uses callbacks. That's the function there. It's essentially a void, because the callbacks aren't going to do anything at this point. But it's pretty simple code. A lot of it is doing the calculation, handling events from the user interface. So here you have, the data value that's actually put into showing this on the page. But what's interesting is that this is handling a thread, which is taking care of all of that information, while the map itself is operating.
I haven't played around with this much in recent years, but as far as this goes, where would you look at for the documentation? Is it HTML5 generic documentation, or is it per library that you pull in?
Yeah, it's often per library. So W3C is the place to go for most things. Here's your documentation for web workers itself.
Okay.
And this specification defines an API that allows web application authors to spawn background workers running scripts in parallel to their main page. And so this is, this is really a site that you want to all know about. Any of the APIs are here, as well as CSS standards, as well as HTML5 standards. When you look at this, what's really fun is there's enough information in these documents, the specs, to literally write your own browser. You can literally write your own browser if you venture to. Because when programmers in San Francisco at Google are writing Chrome, they go, okay, we have to implement web workers. How do we do that? Great. I've done this a couple years ago. Well, let's go to the W3C, what does, see what the committee has put down as the recommendations in the specs, because we want to do it the way Safari's doing it, and we want to do it the way Microsoft will eventually do it if they So their programmers at Google are literally using these documents to then say how it's supposed to work in their C++ code in their actual browser. This is where it comes from. So we can look at the same thing. And it's really interesting because they'll give you examples, and they'll give you the actual explanation of what things are supposed to do. So, and I mean, you know, I haven't explored all this, but these would be probably some interesting samples to run. It's going to tell you anything and everything over your head, possibly, you know, what's involved. I mean, this is, you know, an interesting thing, right? So you had a question about the web storage and what happens. So this section is non-normative. These are certain words, you know, they use in standardizations about meaning. It's probably still under development, but it says in either case, shared workers are scoped by origin, domain name. Two different sites using the same names will not collide. So that's cool. So you don't have to worry about what you're calling, you know, your worker, because you can be assured they're not going to collide. That's information to know. That's good. It's all there. Let's look at geolocation then, since we've already looked a little bit at that. I have the words. Okay, this is cool. Some browsers have different ways of doing it. Most browsers will ask you if you want to do allow a process, right? So this is asking me, localhost at that port wants to track your physical location. Allow or deny. So I'm going to allow it. Because it knows that that's a potential, you know, privacy issue. And it's asking me if I want to send data about my location to a server running this website that I'm launching. There's two maps here. The top is Google, bottom is Yahoo. I could have gone to a third and brought in Bing Maps, right? Essentially, they're all doing the same thing. You load in the API, you give an address, longitude and latitude that you wanted to start off with as a fallback, but essentially you have to interrogate your browser here. Now, this machine doesn't have a GPS unit, right? If you had a phone with a GPS, it would actually be able to use that kind of data. It's doing a pretty good job, though. It's getting me at Irvington and the freeway, so that's actually right on. And I'm not exactly sure, so there's different ways. You can use GPS, you can use cell towers, or actual locations, known locations in databases like your service providers. This one here is...
Could be using the who is entry from the IP.
Say what?
Possibly it's using the who is information, like based on your the IP address of the wireless network.
Yeah, it's the IP of the wireless. Yeah, it must be because it's right on. It's accurate. You know, maps, right? So let's look at the code. Here's my includes. Just a quick way to do, you know, stuff like that. This is important doc type is HTML, not HTML5, it's HTML. This area here is used by normalizing. We're just telling that the language is English. For internationalization, that's probably a good idea, so I put it in there. Here is the script, which is being downloaded. And you can notice the key in there. I actually went to the Google site and requested my own key. I did it through Yahoo. And what that allows them is you can create an application, and whenever your Google site geolocation information is accessed, they'll catalog that and I borrowed it from this website up there, Matesich. And so this is, so here's another way to do it, right? The other was you asking normalizer, right? This is asking the navigator if geolocation is available. So like I say, there's numerous ways to do things. Geolocation, get current position, sending a callback or two callback methods, or just letting the person know that they don't have, they're not going to, they're not able to get their information, but they're going to just give a fake your longitude and latitude. So really, this is the entire portion right here. It's not a lot of work that you have to do to get mapping in your website. The callbacks, though, are going to set the position. You saw before where there were properties being set in an array, which was assigned. This is doing it a little bit differently. Position array. Getting the keys out of the positions .coords object, and then pushing up the coords navigator, so map service provider, right? Putting in the information for longitude and latitude, and that's all you need to do to position the map. It's possible to add lots of other things, right? We don't have a scale bar for zooming. You can add that, and this one doesn't have our ability to you can manage a lot of the UI basically. This one looks like it's coming in. This is the Yahoo's map function and for display. Basically got the same stuff there. So within, I don't have lines included, but within 100 lines you can get some basic mapping going on. And then here's your error callback too. So that's nice. That's about all that you need. If we wanted, this to position at a certain spot, the window is held by, that the location, the CSS is right, positioning that window giving you a name. Well, that's just positioning in CSS. But we looked at the JavaScript that's no more than that to get that capability. All right, so let's see. Let's look at drag and drop. There's different things in this. So drag and drop. Let's see here. This is an API as well. You have the ability to call these different events or listen to these different events. And then what you receive is a data transfer object. The data transfer object is going to contain then information about the drag condition, what's being allowed to drag, the data that's being actually moved, and here's some attributes on the data transfer object. The drop effect, whether the effect is allowed over that DOM element, multiple types. Type of data is in there, setting and clearing the data, getting the data, and also that you can move files around and drag and drop now. And also images or blobs, basically arrays of byte data, right? And adding elements. So all of that's capable. So what this example is going to do is a very simple thing. We're going to be able to grab that, we get a drag position, which moved my mouse to the upper top left. It gave me a symbol for dragging is allowed, that little square there. And now I've got a hold of that using the API, and then the symbol changes if we're over a DOM element that doesn't allow a drop. These areas do allow a drop. And what's going to happen in here when I drop this is instead of absolute positioning, it's going to put this DOM element as a child of the gray squared DOM that's inside it. Since these are both, since it moves over because they're both float left. If we were to do the same thing and then I drop it off here, it's now going to remove itself from this DOM element as a child and add it to the child of this box. And you'll notice too that I've got little round corners. That's all the CSS3 stuff. So basically this is going on there. If you wanted to, you can change this around so that it can drop anywhere, and you can use it to do absolute positioning in case you prefer that. In this case, it's just moving it into the DOM tree in a different location in the DOM tree. There's this new feature. Did you see this up here? So I clicked once and it put it up in this. You could actually do this work. See what that just did? Left open. But what it will do is you just mouse over it, or I'm using the keys to go to these different selection of these. And what they're doing is they're putting it in this area as a temporary file. If you want, then you can say, I want to actually lock that, and if you want, you can actually pin it. It won't put it. So that's actually pretty nice feature. Okay, let's see. The geolocation. So, a little bit of Java, CSS, putting these squares, and then here's box A and box B. And you have the drag start. The event is because this is receiving an event. So this is your event handler method, right? The drag start. So we're handling drag enter, drag over, and drag drop. And at this point, it's just ending the job. For box A. Stopping the propagation of the event, the returning false, just so that ends. And these are handling whether what process to handle if you're entering an item or dragging over. And then the other point is to set the. So this in this section, this aside, which was the piece on the right hand side, that orange rectangle, has on drag enter, return drag enter with the event. So this is where we're setting, setting the event on it, and then above we just look at the event handler. On drop, return the result from the drag drop event handler, send the event. In JavaScript, this is just getting off of the window the current event that just occurred. Grab that thing, throw it as an argument, and send it over to the event. And then drag over and so forth. Then the other thing you have to do is set the item draggable. So here's draggable. So box A is draggable equals true. It's false by default. So the other areas where I got the circle with the line through it, those areas don't have draggable equals true. And so if you want any div that you want to be set for that, you set that. And that's drag and drop. That's as much as you need to know about that. Any questions?
Is there designer support for this stuff in Visual Studio? Can you look at it and set those, not divs, but those new named sections? Can you drag those around on the screen and position, or do you have to do all this manually?
Yeah, there's an expression blend bundled with Visual Studio 12 there.
They certainly haven't, bundled, and it's installed on this machine, I haven't even fired it up. Whether it will be bundled in the version you buy or not, I don't know. And it probably won't be express, right? So when you download Visual Studio, you can get Ultimate, Professional, regular, Professional is what I installed. It came bundled with that. I don't know what that's going to mean, but it's released. I think, Mike, I think you probably have a lot of, you're going to have IntelliSense for all of it. And if not, I mean, those are things that, everybody has to set up their environment, so